So today we're going to be looking at Run magazine.
Who is this magazine for anyway?
For the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20. And this, we're going to time travel back to September of 1984. So let's go right into it. Of course, with the Commodore 64, it was big into making music. And then we got this kiss your files goodbye, put it on floppies so you don't have to have all that paperwork everywhere and filling up your file cabinets. Run magazine was big with this magic. What they did is they asked for tips and tricks on different hardware and software, and they picked it and printed it. They'd actually give you $50 for it. Oh, and here we got Atarisoft software. I talked about the Gremlins in my last video when I was doing the Atari versus the Commodore 64. And that is a game that I just missed from back in 1984, but I love it. Of course, Crystal Castles is a huge one. That's a fun one on there. Donkey Kong Jr. You know, I don't remember Donkey Kong Jr. on Atarisoft. I know Donkey Kong Jr. eventually came out, but I don't remember it on the Commodore 64. Of course, Mario Brothers was on there, Track and Field. Typo Attack, I can't say that I played that one. 6 hits that are coming soon, so maybe it just never did come soon. Get Rich, this is just showing you different software it looks like here. Get real estate planning and insurance planning. So you get this back in 1984. Look at that. Look at all those quarters that guy's laying on. All right, and it looks like it goes right into game reviews. We got Flight Simulator 2. And of course, unless you've been under a rock, we've all heard of Flight Simulator. Microsoft's Flight Simulator 2 is all tied to this, and they've been making software for this game for years, and they're still making it. I looked up on Wikipedia and then quite a few. As you can see, I got 3 of these bad boys by SubLogic, because every time I pick up a lot, it seems like everybody had Flight Simulator 2. I see that they gave it an A, so they actually rated it really high and gave it a great review. Now, of course, you need the big, huge manual. I believe it's like a 90-page manual that comes with it. First, this game, the number 1, you wonder where 1 came from. It was first released on the Apple, but now it's released on the Commodore 64 for the Flight Simulator 2 in 1984, and they rate it A for superb. Over here, just telling you about how to do BASIC, a tutorial for the Commodore 64. Here, they're talking about the printer, the Commodore Star Gemini 10X personal printer. I never owned a Star printer. Printers nowadays, people don't really highly value them because you just don't use them that much. But I still have my Commodore MPS 803. And it looks like they also like SuperText by Muse Software. And I'm a huge fan of Muse, but I never had SuperText. It's just a word processor package for the serious user. Looks like they actually had it where you could do 40 column and 80 column. This is cool over here. They've got the cartridge maker for the Commodore 64. Create your own Commodore 64 video games and then put the program on cartridges. Looked quite costly back in the day. A cartridge maker kit was $189. I don't know if any of y'all own that one or ever seen that, but that's really cool. Over here, they got a review for Pit Stop, and we're all, heard of Pit Stop one time or another. One of the first racing games I ever played on the computer. They gave that a B. I would agree with that. I think a B was a good one for that. Of course, they did come out with Pit Stop 2 afterwards. Quintic Warrior, they gave a D. That's interesting that they gave it a D, and it might be the reason why I never played it, or maybe I just didn't have access to it at the time. And then here's Eliza, which is interesting. Eliza kind of reminds me of the 80s version of ChatGPT. You could type in sentences and Eliza would talk back to you and be your therapist, basically. But they gave it a B. They also had software back in the 80s already that teach you how to play the guitar. You can get it for $50 here. Here we got some programs that we could type in. It looks like for SkyPilot. Of course, we've all done the typing in programs before, and that's what these magazines were very well known for, is getting this so you can type in the different programs. Of course, if you mistyped something, you had to troubleshoot and try to figure out what you did wrong. But that was all part of the fun, and you'd spend hours typing in this. Now they're getting into the educational software for the Commodore 64. 40 different software packages, lots of pages on that. I have a few of these different ones in cartridge form, floppies, of course. Face Maker I remember playing, where you can create the face of the guy. Cool ad on Solo Flight here. Microprose software, one of my favorites. And they were great simulations. Of course, my favorite Microprose game of all times is Pirates. Here's a handicapper, which is kind of cool. Looks like they got it for horse racing, dog racing, harness racing, and also for football. So I don't know if the software actually worked or did any good when you're gambling, but they actually helped you out here. Oh, and unleash the music in you. If you didn't see my sight and sound video that I made a few years ago, I'd recommend go checking it out. I went out and searched for all the software I could. There was one that I could not find. It wasn't on any of the databases out there on the internet. No one had it, but I just love this keyboard. I thought it was cool enough to make a video about it. Here's another program, a speller program to help your kids learn how to spell, so you could type that all in and help them. Here's some more educational software, it looks like, by Discovery. Over here is interesting. I just love looking at these little side boxes and advertising. They got different games, and just like interesting to see what the list price and what their price is back in the day. Love Star League Baseball on disc. Love a lot of these games. Star League Baseball was selling for, list price was $31.95. You could buy it for $22.64 from here. And then, of course, you've got your copy program stuff. Blitz at Commodore 64 dealers. It's the fast basic compiler. Picked up one of these drives. It's on one of my retro dealer dud videos in the past. These things were usually really expensive. I wanted one for when I had a BBS, so I could have, always as many drives as possible to have downloads and a place for people to upload to. Over here, we got the SSI, and Questron's great. I'm not familiar with Geopolitical 1990. That's interesting. Questron's probably the main one that I know. I'm not familiar with all these games. Of course, we know Night Mission Pinball. It was a great one, probably one of the first pinballs I've ever played. Got a dissector, everything you wanted in a disk utility. You got to have your utilities for your disks. Now, terminal programs, I had one floppy. It was my very first floppy in my very first case, because I was always grabbing it to be able to call BBSs. It was so cool back in the day calling BBSs, and I got some videos out there about my BBS that I ran personally. Ooh. I did a review of this IFR. I thought it was sorry. Look at that. They're asking $30 for it. Such a hard one to figure out. Definitely need probably the huge manual on there. Of course, Typing Tutor and Word Invaders. Good stuff to learn how to type. Commodore 64 definitely helped me once we got to typing class when I took that in middle school. I could fly on that thing. I still could type fast today, and I give it all credit to my Commodore 64. I had the Doodle program. I did not have the pad. I think you could use the joystick for it. I could be wrong. You got your parallel interface that gives you a full expansion to 4 independent cartridge slots. I actually got one of those in one of my pickups too. Cops and Robbers and Computers. Looks like a detective. Use it as a database for the police department for criminals. Here's some Commodore 64 books from back in the day. I always love picking up these old books and looking at those too. Huge disc sell, $1.19 for a floppy. If you bought 100 of them, which when you're filling it up and you're calling BBSs all day, you could go through 100 quick. It's a voice synthesizer, make a computer talk. You can add text-to-speech software that allows you to hear what they say. Scott Adams, Aardvark, and Zork Adventure games it would work with. Anyone try that and do that? Music calc. I always just remember that one as flat. And in fact, I think I have that one. So here's the music calc that I was just talking about. Synthesizer and sequencer. Have the original here. And there it is right there. Did anyone else have this music calc or ever used it before? Anyway, it was $39.95 for that. Chalkboard colored tablet, $50. some TimeWork software, Superior computer games. Let's see what games they got here. Pogo Joe. That's like one of the classics. I got an original floppy of Pogo Joe. Just loved that game. That was fun. Baseball games. Facts. Stop wasting quarters. Now you can play Epic edX Facts at home. Play against the computer or opponent. Get the answer first. I don't remember playing Facts. Did anyone else remember that game? Summer Games, of course. Dragon Riders of Pern, of course. Jumpman, classic. What did that cost? $40 back in the day. On sale for $24.95. Get it on disc or tape. Temple of Apshai, one of the first games that I ever got for the Commodore 64. Again, on sale for $24.95. Buy one and you get Crush, Crumble, and Chomp for free. Sweet. Here's some Hess game samples. Got Shamus there. Expand your VIC-20 to Commodore 64 power for only $79. Shoot, I would just buy a Commodore 64. Why upgrade that VIC-20? New product. Now we've got a product you've been waiting for. What is this? The Commander 2. 5 1/4 floppy disk drive for the Commodore 64 and VIC-20. I have never seen a Commander 2. Did any of y'all own it? I would love to see a picture of it. This kind of gives me a picture, but would love to see a real one. Wonder how long they were out there. Pretty pricey. $369.95. A real speech synthesizer, $90. Program your own EEPROMs. We've kind of seen that already in another one. Again, Commodore Clinic with Jim. It looks like, again, asking just any questions about their system. It was always helpful if you had a question or having problems something with your Commodore. Smooth Talker. It will talk your ears off. Unlimited vocabulary. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it's for the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64. Never heard of Smooth Talker. What do we got here? Software. 35 programs. Sorry, disc only. $12.95 for games, utilities, business. I wonder what all you got for that $12.95 and how good could that have been. That's interesting. I would love to see what was on that floppy. New products came out here. Here's one that just came out in '84 for Star Wars. Has released Star Wars, the arcade game for the Commodore 64. Get it on cartridge for $40. Love going back in time and looking at all this old stuff. I hope you're loving it too. Modem, different thing, arcade space thriller. Make your own Commodore radio active. That's interesting. Make it into a radio teletype and Morse code terminal. Anyone own that? That's kind of cool. And here's the back. It's not how much you pay, it's how much you get. And look at that setup right there. That is a sweet setup. Got your little modem over there with your printer and of course your floppy drive. Commodore 64 and that awesome monitor. Sweet. And that's it, guys. That's everything in this Run magazine from September of 1984.